So this may come as a surprise to you, but I enjoy video games. I enjoy video games a lot, though something I haven't enjoyed as much in the past are video game movie adaptations. What's worse though is when a game that is already very cinematic is adapted into a movie and a lot of the charm it originally had is left out entirely. We've had some exceptions to the rules like The Last of Us, but we still have a few stinkers slip in here and there. Until Dawn got the movie adaptation this time, and for a game that was so cinematic already, making a movie of it seemed like an odd choice when we can just go play the game and probably have a better experience. Still, I wanted to give it a shot anyway since I like the IP so much, and to see if this movie connects to the game or if it's just a cheap attempt to make some money off the name. After having watched the movie, I feel like the answer is somewhere in between actually. Hey, what's good out there, everybody? It's your boy, DatChickenWang, part of the ChickenWang Gang crew, and I'm here to give you my honest thoughts and opinions about a video game adaptation I don't think anyone was asking for. But hey, let's get crazy, scary, spooky, and hilarious with this review for Until Dawn. Until Dawn centers around the character of Clover. She and some friends are going for what they thought was a weekend retreat to memorialize Melanie, Clover's sister who disappeared a year prior. Well, it turns out Clover wants to low-key investigate the disappearance of her sister instead, and their search leads them to an abandoned visitor center where they encounter a masked killer who eviscerates them one by one. After being gruesomely murdered, they wake up at the beginning of the same evening and soon realize that they're trapped in a time loop. And as they relive the night, each iteration introduces new horrors, and they realize that surviving until dawn is the only way any of them are going to make it out alive. So going off just that does not sound like the Until Dawn experience that we've come to know and love throughout all these games. And you know what? This is a movie, and I just wanted to go into it and have a decent horror experience. And for the most part I did, especially in the first half. As we're finding out about how this world works with the Until Dawn lore and them having to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together every time they respawn, it starts to feel like Edge of Tomorrow with Cabin in the Woods, and you mix that together and it sounds like it would be a great concept for a comedy horror movie. But the rules of Until Dawn actually prevent it from being as crazy as it really could have been. So unlike Edge of Tomorrow where the loop can go on forever, Until Dawn does have a set amount of respawns it gives its characters before it pulls the plug on them, which gives the movie a ticking clock element. We spend 4 nights with the characters initially, then we're just on the final night? So how did we get here? Well, a character pulls out a phone that shows a montage of other nights that we didn't get to experience because the characters themselves are starting to forget. Like, I get that we gotta ramp it up towards the ending, but that felt lazy and was one of the big things that this movie marketed itself with. So going from night 5 all the way to 13 felt like a cop-out on the movie. Oh, but wait. The movie does do this for a reason. But it also doesn't make a lot of sense because the characters are slowly losing their minds, yet they're relatively healthy. And given the movie's own logic, if these people are starting to lose their minds, they should be deteriorating both mentally and physically, but whatever. But some of the other early horror segments work pretty well because they tease monsters that are out and about that are preventing them from leaving. Like there is a giant monster, something reminiscent of the Fog, and you see it out there and you don't really know what it is, but you know it's preventing them from leaving if they want to just drive on out of there. And there's also a werewolf that they tease that would have been fun if it chased them down at some point, but it just never happens. There was just so much potential, crazy potential with all the different nights here, but a respawn limit that they had, it just didn't really do them any favors to get as experimental as they could have, unfortunately. So we have our main characters that are in college and going on this retreat/investigation together. Clover is pretty much the protagonist of this movie while the other characters react to events unfolding around her. Max tags along on this trip because he's trying his damned hardest to get back with Clover, which causes him to make a couple of dumb decisions along the way. We got the only couple there, Nina and Abe. Then there is Megan, who is also kind of just there, but she seems to have some kind of gift that allows her to sense certain things, almost like a sixth sense. And then we have Peter Stormare making an appearance. If you've played Until Dawn, it may seem like a fun cameo, but it ends up being more than you might actually think. So given all they had to work with, I think all these actors actually did their part quite well. Although, unfortunately, the writing for Max is probably the weakest out of the entire bunch because his only motivation is Clover and Clover and Clover. Nothing else matters. Although there is Abe, who actually I think is the most relatable out of the bunch because of the decisions that he's making, but they kind of portray him to be an asshole because he's willing to let one or two people die just to kind of save the majority of the whole band altogether. So for some reason I found Megan to be my favorite character of the bunch, probably because she's the most analytical of all of them, and despite the whole perilous situation they're in, she's trying to keep everybody good. She's trying to keep the vibe right this entire time. And there is Peter Stormare's character, who actually plays a major role in this movie, and for better or worse, it caught me by surprise, although I think some people are going to be divided about his character regardless. So coming back to the game, I struggle to understand why they went the whole Groundhog's Day route with this movie, when the game is very big on the player making decisions they can't come back from. The big thing about the game is that your decisions could permanently kill off characters, and that took place in one single night. The game didn't have a horror genre mashup like it does here. However, the one thing that this movie did have going for it in the first half that the game sorely lacked was a sense of humor with its kills. The game is very serious for the most part to add to the intensity, and it only gets more intense once the big twist happens. It's a horror game, you expect that. The movie, meanwhile, has some campy, humorous moments in it which got genuine laughs out of me and the audience. There is that one iconic scene in the game that gets everyone laughing.
Please, just try to understand. Understand the palm of my hand, bitch.
But felt that the humor in the movie helped it more than it did in the game. And that's what just boggles my mind about this movie. It's like it knows exactly what it is, and it leans into it very early on, but then when it's time to wrap things up, we have to get super serious for no reason when we had something good going. And despite trying so many different things earlier, the group now decides that they have to go through this alternate path that they have purposely put aside just because there's no other option available to them. Although this is also the section where they tried to play up the horror going into the finale of the movie. And the thing is though, if you've played the game, you already know that you are not going to outrun a Wendigo regardless. It's just not happening. The movie does attempt to link itself to the game, and while I caught the subtle hints here and there that were shown prior to the ending, this is probably going to be a twist that people who have played the game either hate or will be like, okay, I guess. So I guess even though this movie uses the Until Dawn IP, due to the respawn mechanic and the mashup of different horror genres, this definitely could have been adapted into a Dead by Daylight movie and probably seen better results. But at the same time, this also opens up the world and the lore of Until Dawn a little bit more and almost makes it something akin to a Silent Hill. Although this movie is nowhere near as bad as Silent Hill Revelation, so it does have that going for it. And I expected to go into this just kind of having not a great time, but this movie actually surprised me by pulling off some laughs, got some good visuals, and some good callbacks to Until Dawn, and it is not the worst video game adaptation I saw, especially since Borderlands still exists out there. And even though I had a good time, I don't think I'd recommend going to the movie theater to check this out. It's coming out on streaming at some point, so hey, that's your best bet right there. So with that said, I'm going to give Until Dawn 5 out of 11 chicken wangs. It was mid for me, but for some of the humor, the visuals, and game references, it kept me interested. The second half of the movie was the weakest part, but the lead up to the climax won me over a little bit with how intense it started to get. Just wish they kept that up more because it started to finally feel like we were running from the Wendigos for real. I imagine fans of the game to be divided on this one, seeing as I'm also one, but I can appreciate some of the world building this movie did, and if anything, I'm looking forward to the next Until Dawn game even more now. And that's my review for Until Dawn. This review has really made me want to revisit both Until Dawn the game and to finally check out The Quarry since I never got around to it, so thank you to Supermassive Games for putting out these great horror titles. But if you made it this far into my review, hoping I may have earned a like or even a subscribe from you. If not, totally cool, just happy you passed on through. So if you have any comments, compliments, criticisms, or advice I could use for these videos, please be sure to let me know, and I will hopefully see you for the next one. Yo yo!